chapters 21 and 22. Chapter 21, of Anthony the Monk. What sort of man the monk Anthony was, who lived in the same age as the Egyptian desert, and how he openly contended with devils, clearly detecting their devices and wily modes of warfare, and how he performed many miracles, would be superfluous for us to say, for Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, has anticipated us, having devoted an entire book to his biography. Of such good men there was a large number at one time during the years of Emperor Constantine. Chapter 22. Menes, the founder of the Messenians' heresy, and on his origin. But amidst the good wheat, tares are accustomed to spring up, for envy loves to plot insidiously against the good. Hence it was that, a little while before the time of Constantine, a species of heathenish Christianity made its appearance together with that which was real, just as false prophets sprang up among the true, and false apostles among the true apostles. For at that time a dogma of Empedocles, the heathen philosopher, by means of Manichaeus, assumed the form of Christian doctrine. Eusebius Pamphilus has indeed mentioned this person in the 7th book of his ecclesiastical history, but has not entered into minute details concerning him. Wherefore I deem it incumbent on me to supply some particulars which he has left unnoticed. Thus it will be known who this Manichaeus was, whence he came, and what was the nature of his presumptuous daring. A Saracen named Scythian married a captive from the Upper Thebes. On her account he dwelt in Egypt, and having versed himself in learning of the Egyptians, he subtly introduced the theory of Epicletus and the Pythagoreans among the doctrines of the Christian faith, asserting that there were two natures, a good and an evil one. He turned, as Epicletus had done, the latter discord and the former friendship of this Scythian Buddhist, who had been previously called Therbinius, became a disciple, and he, having proceeded to Babylon with the Persian inhabitant, made many extravagant statements respecting himself, declaring that he was born of a virgin and brought up in the mountains. The same man afterward composed 4 books, one he entitled The Mysteries, another The Gospel, and a third The Treasure, and the 4th Heads, summaries. But pretending to perform some mystic rites, he was hurled down a precipice by a spirit, and so perished. A certain woman, at whose house he had lodged, buried him, and taking possession of his property, bought a boy about 7 years old, whose name was Cubriacus. This lad she enfranchised, and having given him a liberal education, she soon after died, leaving him all that belonged to Diabetes, including the books he had written on the principles encapsulated by Scythian. Cubriacus, the freedman, taking these things with him, and having withdrawn into the regions of Persia, changed his name, calling himself Menes, and disseminated the books of Buddhas or Triamphitheus among his deluded followers of his own. Now, the contents of these treatises apparently agree with Christianity in expression, but are pagan in sentiment, for Manichaeus, being an atheist, incited his disciples to acknowledge the plurality of gods, and taught them to worship the sun. He also introduced the doctrine of fate, denying human free will, and affirmed a transmutation of bodies, clearly following the opinions of Epicletus and Pythagoras and the Egyptians. He denied that Christ existed in the flesh, asserting that he was an apparition, and rejected moreover the law and the prophets, calling himself the Comforter. all of which dogmas are totally at variance with the Orthodox faith of the Church. In his epistles, he even dared to call himself an apostle, but for a pretension so unfounded he brought upon himself merited retribution in the following manner. The son of the Persian monarch having been attacked with disease, his father became anxious for his recovery, and left no means untried in order to effect it. And as he had heard of the wonder working of Manchurius, and thinking that these miracles were real, he sent for him as an apostle, trusting that through him his son might be restored. He accordingly presented himself at court, and with his assumed manner undertook the treatment of the young prince. But the king, seeing that the child died in his hands, shut up the person in person with the intentions of putting him to death. However, he contrived to escape and fled to Mesopotamia. But the king of Persia, having discovered that he was dwelling there, caused him to be brought thence by force, and after having flayed him alive, he stuffed his skin with chaff and suspended him in front of the gate of the city. These things we state, not having manufactured them ourselves, but collected from a book entitled The Disputation of Archelaus, Bishop of Caesarea, one of the cities of Mesopotamia. For Archelaus himself states that he disputed with Manicherius face to face, and mentions the circumstances connected with his life to which we have now alluded. Envy thus delights, as we beforehand remarked, to be insidiously at work in the midst of a prosperous condition of affairs. But for what reason the goodness of God permits this to be done, whether he wishes thereby to bring into activity the excellence of the principles of the Church, and to utterly break down the self-importance which is wont to unite itself with faith, or for what other cause, is at the same time a difficult question, and not relevant to the present discussion. For our object is to neither examine the soundness of doctrinal views, nor to analyze the mysterious reasons for the providences and judgments of God, but to detail as faithfully as possible the history of transactions which have taken place in the churches. The way in which the superstition of the Manichaeans sprang up a little before the time of Constantine has been thus described. Now let us return to the times and events which are proper subject of this history.